Good afternoon, everyone. This is Jitendra for this today's session. Okay, so today's our session is data analytics for internal audit. As you know, the data analytics very important part of internal audit. So you see, in today there are a lot of data we receive from the various clients through various legacy system ERP. And now, as an internal auditor, it's very important now to understand the data and carry out the analytics to come to the conclusion. So this is a very important topic for internal audit. So today we have a speaker, Mr. Jairam Rajshekhar. He is a director, client relation with Sama Audit System and Software Private Limited. He is a CA, CISA. He has more than 15 years of experience with compliance and audit group of Fortune companies and government bodies in leading implementation of technology services. And he is specialized helping risk and assurance professional, functional as well as IT for better control and methodologies to build stronger assurance program. So thanks Mr. Jairam for today's session. And I'm handing over to Mr. Jairam for today's session. So what we'll do, we'll have initially 1 hour, we'll have a presentation, and at the end of session, we'll take all your questions, and question will take up at the last session. So you have any questions, so you can put, there is an option available there where you can put your question. So we'll take that question at the end of this session.
Thank you, Mr. Jitendra, and
Yeah, Mr. Jairam.
special
Yeah.
thanks. Thank you, Mr. Jitendra, for giving us this opportunity. It's great to be here with all of you all the IAA members online. And I must thank the IAA leadership, Mr. Harish Dua, yourself, Mr. Mandeep, all of y'all for putting this together, all the senior members and Manas for putting this together and getting such a wonderful response to the program. And I hope I can make this presentation worth your while. I would like to thank everyone who signed up online today for being with us for this topic. The way I have structured this presentation is I know it's in the afternoon and not all of us would like to go through too many slides. So I'm going to keep the slides to just 15 minutes. And I'm going to spend more time on case studies, and I'm going to make it very, very interesting for everyone. So you'll have lots of questions towards the end. So thanks once again to everyone for signing on and for giving us this platform. I would like to start my presentation with a very important premise. Just before lockdown, just like how all of us, made arrangements for groceries and household items at home. I remember I visited a particular retail store, and while I was going through the store maintaining my social distancing, I noticed one small child picked up a small cupcake and opened the wrapper and ate up the cupcake. In no time, the security guard came running and caught the child. And the child started crying. The parents came running. And luckily, as they say, unprecedented situations like now bring out the most amazing traits in humanity. And it was a very heartening to see the store manager come and console the child and just tell the parents, don't worry, we understand, it's fine. And I think it is a very heartening situation. But while I wanted to bring out a bit of a positive outlook in my analogy, I also wanted to talk about how that security guard came running within a minute of the child eating the cupcake, because there was a camera in every aisle looking down on the customer. And I feel, friends, that this camera in the aisle, which is like a preventive control, is actually data analytics in a process which is continuously looking at controls which are performing in a process. When the camera stops functioning, and if, let us say, I am a customer and I do not have the right intention, I may have a temptation to pick up something, put it in my pocket and walk out, because I know the control is not working. Just in the same analogy, if we look at data analytics, if we do not have a suitable data analytical tool running within the process on a repetitive mode, day in, day out, testing every control, making sure the controls are working as intended, it is very possible that we could have certain anomalies going undetected, irregularities going undetected. And I remember in a very recent survey I read in the Association of Certified Fraud Examiner survey, I believe it takes almost 400 days plus to detect a fraud. at which point in time almost 85 to 90% of proceeds are irrecoverable. And the survey clearly pointed out that one of the strongest mechanisms to have a shorter detection time for red flags and frauds is data analytics. So I wanted to start my presentation with that premise. Another very interesting premise I would like to share with all of you all is a few years back, we were 70 kilometers away from the Kaziranga sanctuary in the Northeast, and we were doing a data analytical project for a leading refinery. And I remember, friends, that while we were doing the training program, we were having various internal auditors with us. The training was going well, and suddenly we noticed a bit of hullabaloo in the training, and a couple of the auditors left the session. There were technical auditors who had walked in. So, for all the members who are online, for manufacturing companies, typically refineries have technical auditors and financial internal auditors, and these technical auditors had brought a report where they actually showed one of the points in the report that there were certain critical machines in the refinery process which were experiencing frequent breakdown maintenance even though they were going through their scheduled preventive maintenance. And I went through that paragraph with the chief internal auditor and the team, and I noticed that the statement in the observation was so and so machines having breakdown maintenance despite a regular preventive maintenance schedule. And I looked at that and I wondered to myself, and this was a few years back, I said, this is delivering information. This paragraph is not delivering any insight. It's not delivering any actionable intelligence to the stakeholders. And I went up to the auditor and I said, would you mind if we take a look at the data? And it's very interesting. I thought I'll share with you. They gave us the maintenance data for the last 7 years. They gave us the machine master and they gave us the fixed asset register. And using a data analytical tool, we pulled it all together and we came out with a very interesting observation, everyone, that the accumulated maintenance cost for those machines had exceeded the acquisition cost of the asset. So it was pretty much like a white elephant. You keep feeding it, it's going to eat, it's going to kind of get nice and plump and healthy, but it's not going to be delivering any rewards or returns. And I thought, let me start my presentation with this premise, because all of us need to appreciate one thing. Our community of internal auditors are most relevant when we are delivering value-based, actionable intelligence to the stakeholders. Today, any stakeholder, any audit committee member would be more than happy to receive one element of surprise actionable intelligence which they did not know at their end. That is the value. We are not playing the role of a postman or a delivery agent. We are giving actionable intelligence. And I firmly believe data analytics for internal auditors can ensure that happens. So with that premise, once again, welcome everyone. And I would like to start with my presentation. I have about 10 slides, which I want to just spend limited time. I don't want to take too much of time on it. Now, something which I've already spoken on, this is the analytics premise. I think I need to go a bit slow because the screen appears to be moving a bit slowly at your end. Yeah, I can now see it's come up at your end. So I picked up this very interesting thought from a colleague of mine who is also a co-auditor, and he picked this up from a Harvard Business Review article, which says analytics is not a nice to have, but a must have. And I think a lot of these points which you see on the slide where you say the goal of data analytics is to turn information into insight. I think we read about this very regularly, but the realization in the internal audit community on these points is starting to pick up. And I think we've not lost the bus. There's lots we need to do. But if each one of us internalize the skill sets required to use data analytics, I believe we are all set to deliver value-added results. I did notice when I did a lot of projects overseas, especially in EMEA, that there's a lot of participation in training programs and projects on data analytics from the top management within the audit team. And I think I'm gradually getting to see that within India also, which is very important. As we say, the tone at the top is important. Within the audit team also, the tone at the top is important. If you look at this chart on the left here, you can actually see that we are moving from hindsight to insight to foresight. And these are three references I love to give in any knowledge management session, because we are making a journey as internal auditors. We are helping stakeholders unravel what happened in the past. We are telling them what's happening currently, and we are helping them get some sensibilities about what may happen in the future with the help of data analytics. Uh, let me move to the next slide. I'm just waiting for it. Don't mind, I'll pause in between so that you all are able to see the slide about the same time I'm able to see it. I've got the audience view here, which still shows me you all on the earlier slide. So give me, yeah. This is a bit about why do we need data analytics. And I think these slides are going to be made available to all of you. I'm not going to go read through each and every point, but I would like to just give you a simple analogy at this stage. I remember data analytics is being used in a very big way by the government of India, and not many of us know it. Today, the largest auditors are within the government of India, and they are using data analytics in a very big way. There was a very interesting example which came to our light where you probably heard about the Ayushman Bharat health scheme, which is spearheaded by the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. And we see the Joint Secretary, Mr. Love Agarwal, nowadays, who very nicely conducts those sessions every afternoon. They have internal auditors who use data analytical tools, and they came across some very interesting findings where they noticed that there were citizens who were claiming gender incompatible procedures. So a male claiming a pregnancy procedure, or someone having multiple procedures on the same day, like a bypass, a hip replacement, a cataract on the same date. And all this was possible with data analytics. And friends, I think the biggest driver here is the size of data. You all can imagine the enormity of data with the government and even with all of your organizations. We at most look at a speck in that massive colossal size of data. So data analytics basically is like if you go into a sand mine, and if you hide a piece of metal inside a sand mine, right, in a dune, and I ask any of us, go look for that piece of metal, you'll dig, and you can have 20 people from the audit team and you won't find that piece of metal. But give the auditor a huge magnet, which is like a data analytical tool, and that metal will come right out and by just bringing it next to the sand dune. So that's the entire credo of data analytics. Now, this slide, which is going to come up on your screen, which is the maturity model for analytics. It's been adopted largely based on the capability maturity model for the growth of analytics within an organization. It should come up on your screen in some time. You'll notice once it comes up on your screen that every team which uses the data analytical tool makes a journey which could take a few months to a few years as far as the analytical tool goes. And essentially what this graph is saying is that today, if I look at most of the audit teams, we are using Microsoft Excel, even though we have invested in a specialized data analytical tool. And the reason is it's very easy to go back to Microsoft Excel because we've all grown up with Excel. But if you learn a specialized data analytical tool, the advantage is not only are you setting yourself up for ad hoc analytics, which is the initial stage you see in my graph, but the advantage is you can move to repetitive analytics and then to continuous auditing and continuous monitoring, which is what is called for by the capability maturity model. I know a couple of mature audit teams in India where once the audit team builds the analytics, they don't continue to own the analytics for more than 6 months to a year. They pass on the analytics to the process owners and they say, hey, look here, you guys, y'all are the owners of the analytics now. Y'all run the analytics and y'all ensure that the objective for which the analytic is designed is being met. And that's, I think, a very, very mature thought. Because if you look at us as a tree, we start with a low hanging fruit and then we move to the top of the tree. we also need to evolve in data analytics. We can't keep doing ad hoc analytics all the time. We need to automate, we need to make it repeatable, we need to bring the stakeholders into the process where they can comply and take actions within the solution, which is basically continuous auditing. And that's the maturity model for analytics. It's very important. And I believe at whichever stage we are currently, we have an option, we have an opportunity to evolve and get better. And someone once asked me at an event that, what if you build all the analytics and there are no more analytics to build? Is your role redundant? Is your role obsolete? And I just thought about it. It was such a clever question. I don't think you can ever build all the analytics because it is such an innovative, imaginative area, and there's so many new dimensions coming in. Because risk itself is such a broad based term that you can never ever say that, okay, I've got 20 analytics, I'm done, that's it. At the same time, I have seen teams build 150 analytics and 300 analytics. Friends, I would like to mention at this stage, the count of metrics, the count of analytics is not critical. I believe you could have 20 analytics, and these analytics, if they are managing and mapping 75 to 80% of your risk profile, that is good enough for you. Moving on. Now, where I'm very gradually taking you into a few concepts, and I know some of it may seem a bit trivial, but allow me the liberty of just talking about it for a few minutes. The slide will come up on your screen in some time. This is about what is a data analytical tool and how does it work for internal auditors. Okay, the slide's going to come up in some time. Yeah. So data analytical tools are powerful, versatile, and scalable audit and fraud analytics solutions. Someone once asked me that, why do you not regard Excel as a powerful data analytical tool? And I said, it's not that I do not regard. Excel is a very good data analytical tool, but it is good when you're working with small data. Now, something for everyone to probably do once they complete this webinar, there is a Global Technology Audit Guide, GTAG, on data analytical technologies by our very own institute, the Institute of Internal Auditors. And that guide lays down the prerequisites of a superior data analytical tool. One of the starting points in the pecking order is an ideal data analytical tool is one where the user cannot alter the underlying data. And for that very reason, a tool like Excel fails the test, because you and me know that if I bring in a file in Excel, I can very well change the underlying data, and I don't even have an audit trail to show me what changes I have made. And that's the reason we recommend users to start with Excel and then gradually move to specialized data analytical tools. You need to use best of both worlds. Continue to use Excel, but also get exposed to data analytical tools. And the great thing about data analytical tools, which you can see in bullet point number 2, is these are plug and play applications. They can work with enormous data. Excel has a limitation of 1 million. Your filters do not work at 1 million. Specialized data analytical tools can go full throttle, few million, few billion. I mean, I know of government departments which use specialized data analytical tools, and they actually picked up the subsidy data for the entire city of Bombay, the gas subsidy data, which was a few million line items, and they ran a duplicate check at no time to see if anyone's availing a duplicate subsidy. The other big advantage, friends, is that you can work with multiple applications. You're not limited to only SAP or only Oracle or only Tally. You could work with the entire universe of applications. Plus, nowadays, let's not forget, a lot of data is coming from outside the company into the company. Bank account statements, mobile bills. I remember a very interesting case of a user who converted a mobile bill into a database using a data analytical tool, and they noticed that someone from the sales team was always traveling to a location and speaking to the vendor on a Sunday at a particular time. And when they actually dug deeper, they noticed that there was vendor favoritism, there were kickbacks, and all the entire shebang, and that all happened through data analytics. So it's very, very interesting. Let's move on. Now, I want to talk about, I am going to be using a particular data analytical tool, which is from Caseware Canada. The tool is called IDEA. And I'm going to keep it very, very case study based. Okay, in no way am I telling you that you need to go for a particular tool. There are many tools available in the system. Pick a tool of your choice, go for it. Because I, with my company, use Idea, I wanted to talk about that particular tool. And I wanted to just show you some interesting nuggets of what the tool is capable of doing. You can effortlessly import files, including PDF files. Okay, and that's something which is a novelty. You can express a lot of the results in the form of a graph, a chart, uh, in the form of dashboards, which I will be showing you in my presentation after some time. What is very nice is that it allows you to detect an error very, very quickly. You can come down to the exception in no time. There are audit trails, there are ability for you to automate tasks through macros. So there's a whole universe of applications within the tool. And what is very nice is the first thing, if I tell you, let's say I were to tell you that I would like everyone in this group to learn, let us say, Python, which is a programming language. I'm sure, me included, I would be really hesitant because we aren't very comfortable with coding and programming as auditors, right? Some of us may, but a good many of us are not comfortable because that's not our specialization. But when you use a tool, a specialized tool, all the functionalities, like you do a duplicate check, you do a grouping, profiling, outlier assessment, you do a multi-file trend analysis, you do a correlation, whatever it may be, all of it is possible through a single click of a button. You do not need to write too many programs and codes. This is something I already spoke about. It's coming up on your screen in some time. These are some of the key functionalities in data analytical tool, which internal auditors can leverage. You can filter and extract. We use that for quick exception identification. I remember using that for a fixed asset review where I wanted to check for an asset whose useful life has expired, but there's still a block of value lying in the block of assets. You can categorize and profile like a dynamic MIS representation. I want to know who's my top performing salesman, city-wise, branch-wise, product-wise, and what are the commensurate incentives they are getting. You can merge, match, and reconcile. Today, we all are working with ERP applications. Data is never available in a single file. The ability for us to bring these files together and create a single repository of information for single point testing is something which is amazing. And I gave you the example at my start of my presentation about bringing in the maintenance file, the machine master, the fixed asset register, and putting it all together and getting something very, very intelligent out of it. Sampling. I think till today, I notice that a lot of audit teams still use the rule of thumb. If you go about asking them, what's the basis for your sample selection? And they say, okay, as a department, we do a 25% sample check. But what if we could have the tool do it for us? What if the tool could tell us, hey, look here, this is your population. If your population is 1,000 general ledger journal voucher entries, the tool tells you pick up 150 entries based on certain intelligence within the tool, based on certain parameters you feed in and algorithms. So it's not person dependent. It has the certain method to that sample selection. You can track duplicates and observe gaps, something which is very interesting, and I'm going to show that to you in my presentation. Trend analysis, charting and graphing, uh, visual imagery, storytelling through visuals. So it's very, very interesting. And you can see this lots out here. And you know, we may actually spend a lifetime. You know, I have actually been working with IDEA, I can share with you, for about 16 years now, and I still discover new functionalities every training session I do. And it's very, very nice to see that. I'm putting up a visual on your screen. These are the kind of visuals and dashboards which data analytical tools can give to you, and you'll actually see that come up. You'll see that come up on your screen in some time. I'm going to be coming close to the end of my PPT in a few minutes, and I'm actually going to get into the case studies very shortly. So just bear with me for a few more minutes. You can see that. And this is something I'm going to show you in a few minutes. So it's actually called Discover, which is a very, very revolutionary technique in data analytical tools. I'm going to go ahead because this is just some stuff which all of you will have. I want to actually come down to the slide here, friends, which I think is one slide which holds the entire presentation together. Let me just wait for it to come up on your screen. You can actually see that this slide, I think, sums up everything in the 29 slides. It's talking about why should I bother about cats, or why should we bother about data analytical tools like internal auditors? And I've actually given a few examples of industries actually using data analytical tools and how they kind of made a difference with it. And just a couple of examples which I wanted to give you before I move into the case study presentation. A leading private sector bank, they would actually manually perform a GST reconciliation, right? 20 days they had one member doing a 20-day reconciliation, and it was very, very sad to see that person all gloomy. Once the GST reconciliation for 1 month is done, they got to start the reconciliation for the next month. With the help of data analytical tools, the reconciliation time was brought down to 1 hour. You can imagine the time saving. A very large auto conglomerate, right? Because data analytical tools is not only about testing controls, identifying red flags, sample estimation, MIS representation. It's also about identifying cost savings and revenue maximization opportunities. A leading auto conglomerate actually used a data analytical tool to compute retrospective rate amendments to purchase orders for a period of a few years. And they identified leakages amounting to 8 crores. And I remember this project very, very closely because the training was done. And in the very next week, they actually took up this project and they were delighted because the money spent on the data analytical tool is recouped 1,000,000 times over thanks to this saving. Another very interesting case which we noticed is we came across a leading manufacturing company where the data was not in the same format. And this is a problem which a lot of us will experience. They wanted to do a stochastic reconciliation, but one of the files was a PDF file and the other was an HTML file because they were using homegrown ERPs. And they were able to successfully reconcile these files and bring about a lot of unreconciled items with the help of these tools. So these slides are with you, friends. As I promised you, I don't want to get too much into the slides. I now want to jump into certain case studies. And with your permission, I'm going to take this up till about, say, 4:35 and cover some very interesting dimensions in this case study. Once again, everyone, I am presenting certain case studies in IDEA software, which is from Caseware Analytics Canada. That being said, there are many tools available and you're free to explore the tools of your choice. Now, let me begin. Give me a minute. I'm just going to set things up. I am within IDEA software, and I wanted to start off with a very simple example. One area which all of us work on is procurement. Procurement is an area which we are all we learn it, we grow up with it, we still do it once we become audit heads. So it's something which is fun, and I think procurement, or P2P as we call it, procure to pay, is an area where you get to test out a lot of dimensions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be actually importing a procurement file. Give me a minute. So I'm doing a simple drag and drop of the procurement data, and I'm going to drop that into IDEA software. And you'll notice that this data is from SAP. So many attendees who are from an SAP environment, they would be familiar with this file. Okay, so I've got the file now within IDEA software. Now, friends, I think there are two challenges to using a data analytical tool, and this is coming from my experience of working very closely with projects across the globe. One is getting access to data. One of the reasons why projects get delayed or they do not meet the required intended objectives is because you do not have access to the right data and data for the right accounting period. Number of reasons. Number two, once you get access to the data, the challenge is, how do I start? Now, while we recommend online trainings, webinar trainings, physical trainings, a training program gives you certain theoretical skill sets. But when you're sitting on your own after the training and you're looking at this data set like me and you're saying, oh my God, how do I begin this project? I remember that trainer spoke about some duplicate command. How do I apply it? And that is the biggest challenge, that fear factor of breaking that change barrier and starting to use a tool is something which is not only in India, across the world. Thankfully, we have a very nice feature within the tool, which is called Discover. And I would encourage all of you to explore this Discover feature available in multiple products. All you need to do is click on the Discover button. And it's very interesting. The Discover button basically generates a number of pre-built analytics on the data file. Okay, so on this purchase order file, it takes a couple of seconds. It gives me a lot of interesting visuals, displays, indicators, dimensions on the data, and you'll see it come up on your screen very well. So now, how we need to kind of incorporate an into internal audit a data analytical tool is, click on Discover. You will get something of value out of it, and from there you gradually build up. All of us frankly need a push when it comes to a data analytical tool, and thankfully with a tool like Discover, you already get that push. The software gives you the push. Okay, you will see it will come up on your screen in some time. Yes, let me see if you all are able to spot the Discover screen. I think the network is a bit slow, or maybe GoToWebinar is running a bit slow, so it's taking some time for you to view my screen. Yeah, that's great. Now you all can actually see I have just clicked a single button called Discover on the procurement data. And what it has given me, friends, is it's given me 2 duplicates on the purchase order number. Now I know folks who are attending the webinar who are using data analytical tools will say that's not a big deal. It's easy to do a duplicate check. I appreciate that. But if you're new to a data analytical tool, you need the software to speak to you. You need the software to handhold and give you information. And if I click on the 2 here, it shows me which are those 2 duplicates. That's the best part. So you'll actually see it come up on your screen in some time. It gives you a display. So not only does it give you an overview, it gives you a display by the side. And if you can strain your eyes, I'm sorry, my visuals are a bit on a smaller resolution. You can see this PO number 321 and PO number 63. These POs are actually repeating themselves in the data. Now, see why is this nice? Because what you can actually do now, friends, is now that you have this indicator available, all you need to do is start your analysis from this point. How can there be a duplicate? Is this duplicate because of a line item based issue? Is it a genuine duplicate? Is it a PO which has been deleted or cancelled, or it's not been released? Those are the dimensions which you can start asking the process owner because the tool has given it to you. Another interesting dimension which comes up if you look at the first dashboard here is outlier analysis. All of us believe that the data is distributed normally in a data set. Sometimes you have an abnormal distribution where you have a sudden bunching of data towards certain segments, either very high values or very low values. And you can actually see here this particular bar in red in the first dashboard is actually showing me all the high value outliers. This is also possible through a drill down. It's very, very interesting. And if you actually go to the second dashboard, friends, which is here below the first dashboard, you'll see it's doing a segmental analysis. Now, currently it's doing a segmental analysis on the unit of measurement, which all of you will say, hey, that's not very important. I agree with you, but you can actually click on settings. And this is a very nice feature. these dashboards are dynamic. You can actually change it the way you would like to view it. So I'm going to change it from unit of measurement to, let us say, user. Okay, you'll actually see it come up on your screen. I think I noticed in the afternoon the screen sharing is very slow on multiple applications. You can actually see that group by, created by. So I've actually changed the dimension from unit of measurement to created by. And you'll notice, friends, the moment I do that, I'm actually getting to see here that this particular user number 42, last two digits 42, has the highest concentration of purchase orders released against their name. Now it may not actually mean anything. There could be business reasons behind it, but the tool has generated that intelligence for you. It's something which you would have never known otherwise, right? So this is a very nice starting point, and it's called Discover. Now I'm going to come out of the screen. You can actually save this particular Discover dashboard and create your own dashboard for future repetitive purchase audits. Now I'm going to come out of the screen and show you a couple of more tests on the purchase order database. Give me a few seconds before the data gets refreshed. Now, my purchase order data contains the material code, and it also contains the unit price. Okay, so you can actually see here I've got the material code and I've got the net price. What I also have with me, friends, is I've got the plant and I've got the date of ordering. Okay, so it's a standard procurement ledger from SAP. One of the tests which we always do in a procurement review is a rate variation check. Are we buying the same material at different prices? And while it's a very interesting metric, right, and I've noticed that wherever we have run this particular test, we've always come out with some saving or the other, which is material. Even though the commercial head would like to deny it, we come out with some saving. Now the point is, how do we go about doing it? Standard data analytical tools like IDEA and other tools available in the market, they have ready to use commands for auditors in the toolbar here. Okay, and one such command is called a duplicate check. Okay, it's coming up on your screen in some time. It's called a duplicate key exclusion check, which many of my friends who are online now from banking, financial services, and insurance will know as a dedupe check. Let's give it a few seconds to refresh, please. I'm sorry it's taking time for the screens to get refreshed, but everyone's online, so it's taking time to move forward. All right, great. So you can actually see a very, very nice thing about audit tools for internal auditors, friends, is that very little programming coding to be done. Most of it happens through simple dialog boxes. Now, what am I trying to look for? I'm looking for the same material. So I check the box material, procured in the same plant, by having the same currency, unit of measurement, and I'm going to make it very interesting and specific, on the same date. Normally we don't do it on the same date, we do it for the same month or the same quarter. I'm going to do it for the same date, and I'm going to look at the field that must be different as being net price. Why? Because I'm doing a rate variation check. Now I'm going to show you two things here, friends. One is, how do we use this particular functionality? And number two, once I use the functionality, I don't want to create a scenario where only Jairam is the procurement go-to guy for running this functionality. I would like anyone in my team to have the capabilities to apply this functionality. And the only way that can happen is if we convert our analytics into a macro. Macros ensure that we are able to automate the work and remove the person dependency factor and make it person independent. Analytics is everyone's responsibility. Making one poor guy in the team the champion works. I'm not deriding that particular school of thought. Everyone should work on analytics. Now, you'll notice, friends, in the data at the back, you can see many of the net prices are zero. Now, if I run this analytic with that zero value sitting there in the data, it's going to create something which all of us as analysts called a false positive, which, believe me, is very, very bothersome for any analyst. Dealing with the false positives is a big challenge. So I'm going to put in a criteria here in the criteria box. So I click on that small calculator button you see on your screen, and I'm going to just put in a criteria saying do this analysis only where the net price has some tangible value. So I put in a condition saying the net price is greater than zero. That is the way we deal with false positives. And this small condition which I'm putting in here, I'm sure we may say, hey, this is not much, but believe me, this small condition can make a world of a difference for you once you get the report. Because if I run it without this condition, and I'm going to get a few thousand cases which I need to physically check, it's defeating the purpose of using the analytical tool. So I might as well put this condition at the start itself. So I put in this condition, net price greater than zero, and I go back to the base screen, and I simply call this a rate variance report. You'll need to wait a few seconds. I should be getting back to this main screen once again, where I name the report as the rate variance report. You can actually see that. I'm back in the main screen. I'm back in the duplicate box, and I enter in the report field the rate variance report. So this is how we do a simple dedupe check. And I can think of a number of examples. We can, just like how you do the rate variation check for purchase orders, if you're an auditor for a bank, you can check whether a loan has been given for the same amount for the same tenure under the same product having different rates of interest, right? If you're an insurance company and you're paying commission and incentives to middlemen, you can check whether for the same product, for the same tenure, are you giving different brokerage rates? You just need to imagine and think. That's it. The analytical tool will do everything else for you. Now let's click on OK. You can actually see there, friends. I am getting a list of cases here. It should come up on your screen in some time. Okay, let's look at the output, because I would rather show you the output and actually show you what was our objective at the start of the session and what have we arrived at after we have run the test. You can actually see here, once the file comes up on your screen, that look at this item in line number 3 and 4, everyone. You can see the material is the same. It's bought at the same plant on the same date. And what is very interesting is the net price for one is $1,50,000 and the net price for the others is $6,70,000. And now this is a bought out. It's not a service contract. It's not like you're making you're erecting a particular machine and you're creating a small part of that. It's not that. You're actually buying a bought out, and you can see the variation here. Now, why is this report a value add for us as an internal auditor? If you look at my purchase order database, my base file, it had about 700 line items. After I applied the duplicate check, mind you, on 100% of the data, I now got a file with only 9 items which are containing the rate variation checks. Look at the way analytics is so precise, it is so tangible, it is so measurable in its output. And this is the value which you will see when you use a data analytical tool. And now, if I want to automate this process, because let's face it, we are always doing procurement audits. But if you're doing it for the same client, we're doing it for different clients. And that's another thing I would like to mention here. Data analytics gives auditors who are in accounting and audit service, I'm talking about chartered accountancy firms, the option to monetize data analytics for their clients. Let me explain it to you why I'm saying that. Let's say you get hired by your client to build certain macros for the procurement cycle. The client is using SAP. Now, once you create these macros, can you not offer it to other clients who are running SAP? there is no confidential data in the macros. It contains a generic SAP field names over which no one has any proprietary right or reference. Once I have that macro ready, it is my IP, it is my solution. I can give it to any of my clients who would like to do a procurement oversight control check, and that's the way I can monetize analytics. So that's a very interesting way, we can think of it as professional service firms. Now, I wanted to show you how you can actually automate this particular analytic. I'm going to go into the audit trail. Every standard audit tool has the capability of an audit trail, and what's nice is it's a visual audit trail. Okay, it will come up on your screen in some time. Now, as you noticed, we've done two texts. We've done an import of a purchase order database, and with that, we've done a rate variation check. Now, there could be n number of tests you could do. You could actually look for split POs. You could look for unreleased PO aging analysis. You could look at deleted POs, missing POs. You can have your whole laundry list of analytics around purchase orders. How do I automate this? You simply click on create a macro. Okay. And I think this is the final point to which everyone needs to arrive. The work you're doing within an audit tool has to be automated, and it should be scheduled. It shouldn't be that you automate it, you have someone sit and manually run it each time. Just record it, schedule it, finish it, forget it, your macros run. You can actually go home for the day. Actually, we are already at home, so let me not give that example. You can actually just sign off for the day, and in the next morning the analytics have run and you've got the results. So just see what I'm doing. I'm selecting the two tasks here, which we performed on the procurement case study. You can actually see that. I'm going to click on finish. And it's as easy as that. There's a school of thought which says, oh, macros are program code. They are heavy on programming. It's tough to understand. I do not believe that. I believe every one of us has the ability to record macros. It's there on your screen. It's a simple dialog box. I'm going to save this macro because I also want to show you how we can run it. So I'm just going to save the macro.
Yes. Macro.
Okay. And now I'm going to show you all something interesting before I change case studies. I'm going to show you how you can run the macro and get the same result on a different data set. Okay. So I'm going to close my files. Let me delete the data, friends. Okay, please bear with me. I know the screen is moving slowly. I'm trying my best to speak to you at the same time the screen comes up. You can see I've deleted the data. And now, let's say in the next cycle, you want to run the macro, right? Now you want to run it on data for the new period. So I've recorded the macro, let's say for the month of February. I want to play it for the month of May. I simply go to macros in the toolbar. I click on open macro. Okay, and I have some sample macros there in my macro folder. I'm going to open the macro which we've all just saved now, which is the test macro. And now I'm actually showing you how to manually run it. You can also schedule this. So when you schedule it, it will run on its own. You don't need to be physically present on the computer. Let the macro open up on your screen. I want to show you the run while you're also viewing the screen. And I simply click on the run button. It's as easy as that. And you'll see the macro will start running on your screen. And it gives you the output with a consistent logic. And I think that's very important because I've known that many internal audit teams like to opt for an ISO certification, and one of the requirements of an ISO certification is that the procedures need to be consistent from cycle to cycle, and analytics and macros ensures that. You can actually see that the macro has run. I've got a check mark against the task, and I've got the data on my screen. So that's the way, I wanted to give you a view on one simple case study. Now, let's move into something a bit more interesting. When you're working with standard sanitized data files like Microsoft Excel, it's very easy for you to import it and analyze it even in Excel. The naysayers would say, oh, I could do this very easily in Excel. That's fine. What if you get a PDF file? Or what if you get a file which is in a very complex report format, which you cannot clean up or sanitize in Excel? I'm going to give you an example of one such file. Okay, give me a minute. And you'll see uh, a lot of y'all will relate to this in more ways than one. Give me a minute. Let me locate the file. Yes, this is a ledger from, it's an inventory ledger, friends, which I'm going to drag and drop an idea. You'll again need to give it a few seconds for the file to open up on your screen. But the objective here is to basically showcase to you how you can work with reports which are in a unstructured, unformatted format. Let's give it a few moments to refresh on the screen. Okay, you can see now that's a classic inventory ledger. I'm not sure of its technical name, but it is an inventory ledger from SAP. And I know I'm giving you a lot of SAP examples, but the same examples would apply to any application system you all are working with. Now, if you notice here, my objective is to do a slow moving, non-moving analysis, okay? Something which we all love to do as auditors. I am going to be picking up the data. Now you see what I'm doing is I'm actually following a process where I tell the software, pick up only the information that is required for the purpose of the slow moving, non-moving analysis. So I'm leaving out all the information which is not required by me and only picking up the information which is critical. Okay, let me do this very slowly because I can actually see that the screen is not moving on at your end. It should come up in some time. Let's give it some time. All right, it's finally started moving. Great. So the first field I'm actually setting up is a field called the date. Okay, so you can actually see that, friends. I have picked up the first field there, which you see on your screen. That's the date field. So that's the date of inventory receipt or inventory issue. I'm going to pick up the second field also, which is the GRGI number, which all of you know, it's the goods received and goods issued number. Okay, let me wait for it to get highlighted. There are a couple of maybe another 2 case studies, friends, which I would like to take up before we take a break for question and answers. I also want to show you a very interesting testing case study on red flag analytics, which is fraud analytics. But I would like my screen to move forward. Fantastic, it's gone ahead. Now I am picking up the field on receipt quantity. Okay, and issue quantity. You all can see those columns side by side. And I am finally picking up the field for the balance amount, which is the last column. Okay, so I have picked up certain fields from the transaction, and these fields are basically going to help me do the non-moving, slow-moving inventory analysis for me. Okay, let's let it just complete. And you'll notice that files like this, which are in an unformatted format, could be in a PDF format, it could be in a text format. We invest a lot of time cleaning these files in Excel, and that defeats the purpose of using Excel as an analytic tool. But if you can actually use a specialized data analytical tool, it makes life very easy for all of us. Okay, so I am saving layer 1, which contains the base details, and I need to just pick up one more key information from the header before we do the aging analysis for slow moving, non-moving. I'm going to pick up the header information at the top, which basically contains the material number. That's very important. So I'm going to pick that up. You can see that line has come up on your screen. That is the material number. Because without that, I would not know to which material the receipt and issue is pertaining. Another big advantage of getting data from your application systems in the form of text files, friends, is if you get it as an Excel file and the data is a few million line items long, it won't fit into an Excel file, whereas it will fit into a text file. And that's a very big advantage we have of working with text files. Okay, I'm going to save this too. And I'm going to import this data into the software, everyone. I'm sorry you all have been very patient with me through these case studies, but technology trumps technology at times, and we're seeing that with the web meeting today. I have actually imported the data into the software. It should come up on your screen in some time. Let's give it a few seconds. And when you actually see the data, you'll know that you'll notice, friends, the columns which I've selected, which is the date, the receipt, the quantity, issue quantity, balance amount, material number, all of those columns get captured in the form of a neatly structured and sanitized inventory ledger. I think that's one of the biggest advantages we have of using the converter. In fact, I must share with you a very interesting case. The department of the GST department uses data analytical tools. They were actually visiting a particular SSC in the north, and they wanted to requisition the books electronically. And the SSC was very smart. They gave them the data in the form of a PDF file, thinking that the inspectors from the GST department would not be able to analyze it. Little did they know that they have these tools which can convert PDF files, and they were literally caught off guard. Now, I want to do a slow moving, non-moving analysis. I am going to click on the aging command here. There is an aging facility available within these data analytical tools. And I am going to do an aging as of, say, 31st March 2016, because the data is slightly old. Okay, I'm waiting for the aging screen to come up at your end. It should come up anytime now. And you know, I have actually seen the management of our clients for whom we do work say, hey, why do you need an aging and a data analytical tool when our system automatically gives you the aging? I have seen many cases where the aging from SAP, Tally, Oracle are not correct. You need to have your own independent objective aging analysis, which happens through data analytical tools. So I'm keying in the aging date at the top. I'm choosing the aging field. I'm choosing the amount field to total. I've got my aging buckets already configured and defined. You can see that on the screen. And I'm going to call this, let's see, inventory aging. I'm going to give the file name inventory aging. And okay. Now, what is very nice is the display which will come on your screen in just some time will actually show you that there are two material codes which have not moved in the last 6 months. You can see they are coming under the 180 plus category. And this example can be applied in fraud investigation also. For example, if your employees are working in sensitive functions and they need to take a block leave, and they haven't done that, and an employee has last taken leave, say 1 year back, you can actually do that using an aging command. And you can identify who that employee is and flag that employee for verification. Just look at that. You can see that 180 plus 2 material in the 180 plus category. And what's nice is, you remember one of my slides which I showed to you, a picture is worth 1,000 words. You can get this in the form of a pie chart. This is something which is really, really nice about data analytical tools. Okay, and that's a very big advantage. And I must share with you, I come back to giving the example of government auditors, because one of the leading government auditors, in every IT audit report they issue, they have a section called findings arising out of data analytics. they categorize all their data analytical findings in a separate section. And in that section, they actually showcase these graphs and charts and visuals and dashboards. It's easier for us to understand it. So friends, that was the inventory case study, something very interesting. Now I want to take up a very interesting fraud analytics case study. Okay. And for which allow me to import a file into IDEA. I'm going to be importing a general ledger or a daybook into IDEA. Yes. Now I'm sure all of y'all had heard of a very interesting technique in conferences, seminars, webinars called Benford's Law. Okay, now I am not going to explain Benford's Law to you because we would need lots of time for that. But I want to show you how it works on a general ledger or a daybook. Okay, let the file come up on your screen first. What I'm going to do in this particular case study is I have with me a daybook which has a number of operating expenses for different locations and cost centers. What I would like to check is, using Benford's Law, are there any expenses where amounts are being booked just below a particular threshold limit, which we in forensics call skimming, where the amount stays just below a particular threshold limit. So I go to Benford's Law, and I'm going to be applying Benford's Law on the field debit to be very specific. And what is very nice is, while probably many of you know about it, the Benford's test is largely the first digit test or the second digit test. But new age data analytical tools also include the last 2 digits Benford test, where you can actually identify amounts ending with 49, 79, 89, 99, which are just below a particular threshold limit. Now you can actually see here, I'm applying the Benford last 2 digits test on the field debit. And what do I intend to gather from this activity? I want to check whether there are any amounts which are just below a threshold limit. In other words, anyone is trying to deliberately split expenses. I run this test, and in a matter of a few seconds, you will get the Benford curve or the graph on your screen. Okay, let's give it a few seconds. Now, if you look at that graph, the x-axis contains combinations of the last 2 digits of an expenditure amount, and the y-axis contains the frequency with which these amounts occur. Now, if you see the red bars in the data, those are the suspicious entries. If I go into the first suspicious entry and I click on display records, you're going to notice something very interesting there. Let me get the display up on your screen. Let the display magnify, everyone, and you'll notice something very interesting. The amounts in that preview, okay, are all ending with the number 49. You can see that. Now, why is this interesting? Because when we do ledger scrutinies, and we do it all the time, we tend to go from bottom top. We tend to look at the grassroots data, and then we tend to get some kind of materiality evaluation on basis of which we can express an opinion. Why should we go from bottom to top in a ledger scrutiny? Let's go from top to bottom. Let's look at the suspicious items from the top. So you can see here, telephone communication charges have a number of expenses ending with 49. And what is interesting is many of the amounts are repeating itself. You can see that. And this has been revealed using the Benford's Law. So it's a very interesting red flag detection technique. I know there's not much in the written about it, but there are some fantastic publication on Benford's Law by Dr. Mark Nigarini, which you would get on Google. And if you're interested, you can pick up the ebook. It's a good time to read it while we are at home. Friends, I am almost down to my last case study, and I thought, let me end it with something which everyone will like, something which everyone can identify with. Okay, so let me have a quick recap. I showed you a case study on procurement where we imported an Excel file, we did a rate variation check and rendered it into a macro. We then imported a very complex text file, an inventory ledger. We did an aging analysis on that. We then brought in a daybook and did a test for red flag analytics, where we looked at skimming amounts which are just below a particular threshold limit. Now, the final case which I would like to take up before we jump into the question and answers is something which is very, very dear to internal auditors. Okay, and that is sampling. How do we go about carrying out sampling on data? Okay, and I actually want to show you a technique which all of you all will find very useful. I'm going to open the same file, the voucher register, because it's a daybook. I want to show you a technique where how do we use a software like IDEA to identify an estimated sample size. So I want to actually forecast the sample. I don't want to tell the software out of 3000 line items, check 300 line items. I want the software to tell me how many line items to check. There's a very nice technique within the software called attribute sampling, which basically is used by auditors to test for controls, whether controls are failing, whether controls are working as intended. Now, I'm not going to again get into the nuts and bolts of it, but I want to show you something very interesting. There's a tab which will come up on your screen where all of you can see planning beta risk control. Okay. Now, this is basically what we call a risk of incorrect acceptance by the auditor. So let me give you an example. You have a daybook. One of the controls in a daybook is that the item could be a revenue item, it could be a capital expenditure item. The control check should work that revenue items are properly classified to revenue heads, capital items to capital heads, and there are certain internal controls in the process which are either physical controls or electronic controls which make that possible. A beta risk control is where the auditor estimates or performs a hypothesis that the controls are working as intended, and as a result of that, he or she checks a smaller sample size. But in actual essence, the controls are failing. This is a very big risk for internal auditors because you will end up checking a smaller sample size and you may leave out important red flags in the data. So IDEA and other data analytical tools give you an opportunity to factor in the beta risk. So I'm going to enter the population size as say 2009-76 vouchers. I am going to enter the confidence level, which is, let's say I keep the confidence level at around 90%. I enter the tolerable deviation rate, which is my appetite for error or my appetite for risk, which let me say is 10%. And I enter my expected deviation rate, which I expect as very conservatively could be my error rate within the population of incorrect classification of vouchers to revenue and capex. I enter that as 5. Now, once you key in these details, which can, and the basis for this could be process walkthroughs, discussions with auditees, past audits, there's a lot of information. You just simply click on the compute button and you can see out of 2,976, which is the population, very shortly, it's going to give you a sample size on your screen, which is 78 entries. That is a very big advantage of using a data analytical tool. It helps you forecast the sample size. Now, the advantage is look at the sample size and look at the critical number of deviations on the side 4. So what is it in a way saying, friends, is if you physically check 78 vouchers and come out with 4 or less than 4 vouchers which are incorrectly classified as revenue and capital, your sample hypothesis is correct. You can complete the audit and finish off the reporting. So it's giving you a method to sample selection rather than tell stakeholders, peer reviews, regulators, I did it because this is a rule of thumb. Rule of thumb talk doesn't work anymore. We need to have something more concrete, something more definable, something more rational. And this allows you to quantify your sample size. So friends, these were a couple of case studies I wanted to show to you. Trust me, we've actually spent maybe an hour together, and I feel that it's not enough. I agree with you. There's lots which we can do, but this was like a curtain raiser. We wanted to actually show to you what are the capabilities of data analytical tools. There are lots of videos available online of how these tools operate. My sincere request to all of you is, if you've not started your journey with the data analytical tool, begin it now. You can actually see there are only benefits in store for us. And I would like to invite you all now to raise any questions you all have, and I would be very happy to take it up. Thank you for being a very, very patient audience, and thank all of you all the 100 of you all, for signing on and sparing your time this afternoon. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Jairam, for this session. It's a very informative and knowledgeable session for the internal audit profession, because as data analytics is very key part that I think everybody, not only internal auditor but the operation people also can use for their day-to-day operation. So with this,
Yeah,
the end of the presentation, I will take some questions. Actually, I saw there are people who put some questions, so I'll take the question one by
sure.
one. Yeah. The first question
Yes,
is,
please.
what is the approximate investment for these tools?
Okay. Uh,
Hmm.
So I can give you a ballpark figure. I don't want to get into commercials on a knowledge management session, but most
Hmm.
of these tools have subscription models. And the ballpark figure is, you can actually look at an investment of a subscription license along with an e-learning course well within 1,50,000.
Okay, okay, good, yeah. And whether this tool can be managed by internal audit team itself, or do you need some IT people whose regular need is whose support is needed to run this tool?
I think that's a very good question. Uh, the the objective of these tools is to make auditors independent. And I believe, given the capabilities you saw in the last half an hour, 40 minutes, it allows us to be independent. But that being said, you do need an IT handshake in the initial days to get access to the data. Once you get access to the data, you are independent.
Okay, but yeah, definitely it means there will be some IT personal support is needed to run this tool.
Yes, yes. And I think many in-house internal audit departments, Jitendra, they have members who are seconded to the department from the IT team, who can help them integrate the tool with the database, point to the right table, point to the right field. So I think
Yeah.
that initial hand-holding is very important. But what comes out by using these tools after a few months is, the auditors themselves become so knowledgeable about the data that they are like a free bird. They can do everything on their own.
Okay, okay, okay. But yeah, in relation to this, actually, one question is arise to me. It's my own personal question. I observe, because actually in the first initial only you mentioned that because the people are more habitual to the Excel tool. Okay, so whenever we try to
Yes.
give them some another tool, maybe Idea, ACL or analyzer tool, there are 10 to people actually,
Yes.
instead of using this tool, they tend to come up switch to the again the Excel. So what is your
Yes, yes.
suggestion in this? Actually, it's happened. It's even in I myself also experience when I actually buy one tool and I try to, even I given the
Yeah,
training to buy resources also. But later on I observe people are not
sure,
using this tool,
sure.
but they again moving to the Excel.
Okay, so that's again a very nice point, Jitendra. I think it's very easy for us to switch back to Excel because it's in our nature, it's in our blood. We've grown up with Excel. What I
Yeah.
think at that time the head of the department needs to do is step in, give the team members a bit of extra time to do a bit of R&D. What I notice happens is, and you will relate to this, the moment deadlines are around the corner, I come to you, I say, Mr. Jitendra, I have to give you this report by tonight. If you force me to use IDEA or ACL, I will not give it. You are compelled. You are compelled to actually tell them, okay, go back to Excel, do it in Excel, but get the result done on time. I feel
Yes, yes.
somewhere
Mm.
in the initial days, the tone at the top, I talked about the tone at the top, I talked about the head of the department needs to give the team members some leverage, some time to acclimatize themselves to the tool. And believe me, one project is all that is needed for them to overcome that barrier.
Okay, okay. So so it means the timing and patience is very important.
Yes, or then on a lighter note, you could remove Microsoft Excel from everyone's computer.
Okay.
Just uninstall
No,
it
but
so that
that
everyone's forced to use IDEO or any other
yeah.
tool.
Yes, yes. Okay, but thanks for the answer on this, because this is the actually concern I observe. Definitely, some people will be there. The
Sure.
next question is, yeah, the next question. Uh, can you help some financial sector within these tools, and if you have any analysis on financial sector, means how this tool can be used the financial sector. So the question is that how we can use this tool in the financial sector.
Yeah, thank you. That's a good question. This tool is agnostic. It can be used in any sector across any process. So if you're looking at the financial sector, let's say financial services like an NBFC or a bank, and there are many of such companies using it within India. One example which comes to my mind right away is our regulator. The Reserve Bank of India is using these tools in the Department of Supervision. And one area where they use it very regularly is on the loan side. In terms of retail loans and corporate loans, there is a declaration which goes from these NBFCs and banks to Reserve Bank, which says that what are the group exposure above, let's say, 1 crore or 5 crore rupees. And what borrowers very smartly do is, when they create multiple credit facilities in a bank, they will create the credit facility with different names. So it is very difficult to group it up and get the group exposure. But using a fuzzy
Okay.
command in the tool, there's a fuzzy command, you can actually club different names. So if I have allied agencies, allied distributors, allied brothers, allied and sons, I can club it together, create one common record, and then do a group exposure test. And that is the just one simple example I wanted to give, but it can be done.
Okay. Okay. And another question is, can data analytics tool directly fetch the data from SAP or any other application?
Okay. Uh, with regard to Oracle, any data analytical tool can work directly with Oracle through what is called the ODBC. It's a Microsoft bridge between the database and the data analytical tool. But for SAP, you need to have a dedicated SAP license, which is it's called a SAP connector. There are many connectors in India. There is Smart Exporter, Theobold, many connectors are there. So that connector is
Okay.
SAP certified, and using that, you can directly fetch data from SAP.
Okay. Okay. But what's your suggestion actually, whether we should use direct data fetch from the production server, or whether we can have a replicate database from which we can take? What's your suggestion on this?
Again, again, a very good question. I would say it is good to have direct connectivity to the database, provided your audit charter and the company IT policy permits it. Because
Okay.
you are directly getting the data from the source, and chances of data contamination in between, chances of error on upload and download are limited.
Okay. Okay. Okay, thanks for this question answer.
Sure.
The next question is, how you able to convert the unstructured data into the proper format? For example, SAP example means whether is it
Right.
possible that unstructured data into the proper readable format?
Yes, just as I showed in the inventory case study, that was an unstructured data file. Most of these data analytical tools have a converter within them, which employs a third party converter, like a report reader, a report converter. So, using those third party converters, which are part of these tools, you don't need to pay for them separately. You can convert any unstructured data into a structured, sanitized format. That being said, let us all be wary. You may be represented that these tools can convert scanned files. Be very careful. There are very few tools in the market which can convert scanned files. It is
Okay.
only system generated PDF files which can be converted. Scanned PDF files, the capabilities are still limited, but yes, these tool companies are working on it.
Okay. Okay. Next question is any other tool other than the IDEA software that we can use for data analysis in internal audit?
Yes, there are many tools. There are many tools which are there. Like it is not only data analytical tools. Nowadays we have Tableau, we have Click,
Okay.
right, which are tools for discovery and visualization. But see, the thing about, and I would like to clear this confusion. While the world and India knows about IDEA, ACL, Alteryx, Arbutus, which are very good products, there is a unfair comparison made between these four tools and Tableau and Click. They try to say that these tools are to compete with each other. Let me clear the air on this. These tools, that is IDEA, ACL, Arbutus, Alteryx, you put them in one bucket and you put Tableau, Click in another bucket. They complement each other. They are not substitutes. IDEA and data analytical tools are powerful audit and fraud analytic tools. Tableau and Click are
Okay.
powerful visualization tools. They are supposed to work together, not substitute in one another.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Then can we use the idea for analyzing unstructured data comprising of emails?
It appears difficult because an email ledger would be in the form of a text document, and if the text
Yeah.
document is not structured page to page, it appears difficult. I think it would be a challenge. Yes.
Okay. Okay. How Power BI and IDEA compare? Power BI and IDEA.
Okay, another nice question. Power BI again falls as a visualization tool. It is not a tool for data analytics, audit and fraud analytics. If you open Power BI, you will see there are no functionalities like gap detection, duplicate, Benford's law, sampling, because it is not meant to be an audit analytic and fraud analytic tool. That being said, all data analytical tools have for their customers an outward integration of the database into Power BI. So even IDEA has it. If I prepare a very good table, let's say I get a rate variation check, I want to present it in a very nice graphic fashion in Power BI. There is a tool available by Caseware Canada, which allows you to push that data into Power BI for better visual representation. So again, they are not substitutes. They complement each other.
Okay. Okay. Does IDEA tool works on data in image format?
No, it doesn't. No images and no scan files. It's under development in Canada, and we hope to give you good news sometime down the line that it will be possible, but not as of yet.
No. Okay. And which tool is the best for data analysis for internal audit? Which is the best tool for data analysis for internal audit?
See,
What's your suggest?
I'll be very biased towards IDEA because I actually grew up learning IDEA and I haven't used other
Okay.
tools. But that being said, when I talk to users who have switched from tools, I will not name the tool, it will not be fair. There are certain other tools which are very, very prominent, but they tend to be very command driven and program driven and not as easy to use as IDEA. So I would, say that yes, IDEA is more user friendly.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Another is a interesting question. Can such data analysis tool effective replace the auditor judgment and instincts?
Definitely not. Definitely not. If you remember the very first functionality I showed in the beginning, Discover, it's not in a way interpreting it for you. It's giving you an indicator. Interpretation is your judgment and my judgment. It is your skill set and my skill set. How we interpret that Discover dashboard is up to us. How we edit it is up to us. How we change the dashboard is up to us. So in no way is IDEA going to what do you say, replace our gray cells. But what it will do is it will help the process of introspection and interpretation in a much better way rather than not using it.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I'll take the last question.
Sure.
Again, yeah, just now I received this question. How much time it will take to learn the IDEA tool? What's your suggestion?
Oh, wow. That's a very nice question. And I thank the attendee who's put that question on because that is a favorite
Yeah,
question I get in a number of panels. Uh,
okay.
it's okay. So normally, if okay, so okay, let me give you a small background. I'll just take a minute, Jitendra, if you don't mind.
Yeah, please,
There
please.
are
Yeah.
there are two kinds of users. Okay, and I firmly believe this because I have been doing this for a long time now. One user is someone who's gifted with skill sets for analytics. They're born with skill sets for analytics. And there are
Okay.
other users who learn analytics the hard way. I fall in category 2. I was not gifted with analytics, I learned it the hard way. So
Okay.
if you are the user who falls in bucket number 1, it will come to you very easily. You could learn it with a 2-day training program and become very good with it.
Okay.
But if you are someone who needs to take the efforts and learn it, it may take anything from a few weeks to a few months, depending on the time you put on learning. What is important is attend that initial training, which could be a physical training or an e-learning. And once that is done, directly invest what you've learned into a project, a live project. That is when the learnings will be crystallized. And with every project you do, let's say you do a project every fortnight, your learnings will become very permanent, and in no time you will become a proficient. I use the word which IA uses, proficiency. You will become proficient in the use of idea or the data analytics.
Okay. 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 Actually, I saw there are multiple questions there. So, can we have a 5 minutes? We can take more further questions.
Why not? I'll be more than happy to take it.
Okay. Okay. So I saw actually there are people are taking more interest on putting so many questions. So I'll take one question.
Thank you.
Can we use this tool on MacBook, and can one license use on multiple desktops?
You can use it on a MacBook, but you will have to set up a boot camp on a MacBook, which is a partition, install Windows in that, and have the tool work in Windows, because most of these tools are Windows-based tools. I'm not sure if they are Mac-based tools. So yes, you'll have to create a partition, install Windows, and load the tool in Windows. That is my answer to point number 1. Point number 2 was you said what is the
No, whether we can
can you
use
repeat
this.
the
Suppose
question?
I buy. Yeah, can one license use on multiple desktops?
No, these are single user licenses. A single license would work on a single PC.
Single PC. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And yeah. Oh, so yeah, please.
So what how typically it works is, if y'all are a 5-member internal audit team or a 5-member internal audit team for a chartered accountancy firm, go for about 2 licenses. Cover at least half the team. I think that's a good way, and then you can always ramp up and buy additional licenses. Because
Okay.
collaboration is possible. See, a very important thing is, as internal auditors, we believe in maker and checker. It is important even an idea, and when you're using any other data analytical tool, you follow maker checker. My work is reviewed by you, Jitendra. Your work is reviewed by me. That way the learning
Yes.
is perfect.
Okay. Yes. Yes. Can we do a data visualization on real time basis?
Not with these data analytical tools. It allows for near real-time analytics, in the sense, like if I give you an example, one tech check which a lot of users do is they look for duplicate vendor invoices, and they run that every morning. I
Okay.
know one of the largest engineering companies uses it for their shared service center, where they process a few thousand crore of vendor payments every year, and they run the check every morning before they pay the vendor. So before they pay the vendor, they make sure whether it's a duplicate or not. If it's a duplicate, it's flagged off and it's not paid. If it's clear, they pay it. So yes, near real-time basis, but not real-time analytics.
Okay. Okay. And can you use this tool, idea tool, for engineering company EPC?
Why not? Why not? I mean, one of the
Okay.
classic areas in an EPC where I remember using it is, when you have your, uh, for any project related item, there's a bill of material, right? And the bill of material is like a skeleton. What goes into making that particular project? Material, labor, services, various kind of elements. So now that bill of material is available in an electronic format, and you have
Okay.
the stock ledger in an electronic format. Now you can actually check which are the items which are being stocked for that project, which are not required as per the bill of material, and that is wasteful procurement for the project.
Okay.
So a two-way match between the bill of material and the stock ledger will immediately tell you, oh, look here, these items should not be stocked because it is no longer required as a project spare, and that would be a wasteful procurement. You can quantify it, and you've got your monetary impact.
Okay. Yeah, actually, it's very important. So it means by looking to this session, we can say that actually the data analyst tool is actually we can use any type of industry where actually more data
Yes,
is
yes.
there and where analysis part is required.
Exactly, exactly. In fact, I must tell you one thing, Jitendra, before you move ahead. I know we are coming close to the end of the session. I'll just take a minute.
Yeah.
There is a
Yeah.
school of thought which says, uh, if I have data in a manual format, can I use a data analytical tool? For example, I have registers, which is
Mm.
not in a digital format. It's actually in a ledger format, paper, like a bhai khata. And can I use a data analytical tool? Most of us would say, no, you cannot use a data analytical tool. I am of the belief, why don't you hire a few EDP engineers, digitize those registers into a database, and employ a data analytical tool? As long as your cost of digitization is lesser than the value you will get from the project, why not do that? So
Yes.
that's a thought for everyone. Wherever you have physical data, you can think of digitizing it and open up avenues for data analytics.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. So Mr. Jairam, thanks for the today's session. It's very knowledgeable, informative, and definitely is going to help everyone to actually use the data analytics tool. It's one of the very informative and knowledgeable session. And thanks all participants for this today's session. I saw now also 100% participation is there for this session. So and there are a lot many questions. Really, it's a very nice and everybody is very taking more interest putting this question. Thanks everyone giving your time and be patient for this today's session. At the end, I can say that please take care of yourself, your family, and be at home and use this time to more learning as much as possible. Yeah, Jairam, you
Thank
want
you
to
so much, sir.
say something before closing the session?
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. I would like to thank you for taking your time and being with us through the entire event. Thanks to the entire IIA, BOG, the senior members, Menas, thank you for putting this together, and to all the members who have attended. And Jitendra ji, as you rightly mentioned, they've stayed till the end. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Good wishes to everyone. Stay safe and healthy. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Bye, everyone. Thank you.